Right, let's move on to our sixth and final game, which took place at Easter Road on Saturday. Hibs 0, Celtic 0. Tony, going into this one, I think a lot of people assumed that if Montgomery stuck with his system that we saw at Ibrox in terms of passing it out for the back all the time, in terms of lining up with a 4-4-2 that could sometimes look like a 4-2-4, considering the
players involved.
The players involved. That there was, if Hibs were going to get a result, it was no way going to be a 0-0. Mm-hmm. So how did they manage it?
Well, there was. See, he kept the same shape, but he done it differently, and he changed some of the slight bits of the personnel. So if you look at it with Tavares, which was sort of the headline. Oh no, what's happening?
Why do you like him so much?
Why is he playing?
It's that meme with Marge with a potato.
But he's got it's like I think the guy, I forget his name, our assistant manager, worked with Tavares.
All right.
Because he was involved at Benfica. So I think there's a link there between the two of them, and he knows them. But the Tavares, the one thing I will say for him is, I'll go on to the poor bits in a second, but tactically he was really good, and you could tell that he'd been drilled, and the team had been drilled to play very specifically, but he still likes his formation, and you can still be defensive in a 4-4-2. Like, there's no rules about how you can get the solid two banks of four, exactly. And then obviously with Hibs with Venti.
I always think the prime example of that was Trinidad and Tobago at the 2006 World Cup? Yeah, 2006, I think, when they played 4-4-2 every game. Yeah. But they just, like, they were so defensive, and they literally, like, split their forwards out to mark the opposition fullbacks. Yeah. They were playing a 4-4-2.
But with Venti, because he works so hard, it works. He gets back in so quickly to help protect that. He was playing on Callum McGregor, and he done a pretty good bloody job on McGregor, stopping McGregor from running the show, essentially, which he does so often. And Tavares was barely really playing. He was playing inside and going out to right rather than out to inside. When we didn't have the ball, he was coming in really, really narrow. And then obviously Elie Youan, who there's a lot of people who don't understand Elie Youan. Work rate isn't a problem with Elie Youan. There's switching off, there's stuff like that, but work rate's never... Decision making, right? But the work rate's there. And I know it doesn't seem fashionable with a guy who does the TikTok things with the hair like that. You're thinking that's not going to be a hard-working player, especially all the stuff you hear about him sleeping all the time and that, but that's probably quite good for an athlete. But you know what I mean? But like, work rate isn't bad. And then Miller... Bashiri, I'm going to go into the sort of the by kicks, which I think were a big contentious thing with Hibs fans anyway. But Abita and Miller were absolutely superb. Miller's really, really coming onto a game here, and especially not just. It was never his concentration's going up since Montgomery's come in, and even through that there was games he was playing well, and there were still these switches. Kilmarnock, he played really well in the first half, but there was big switching off, and there was a game against St Mirren where it was happening as well. And it was frustrating, but with him, they played Palma and who was playing on that, and Maeda. Like, they both had to come off, and they both came off early because they were getting absolutely nothing out of them. And Miller's doing that with Tavares sort of tucking in. You know, he played really. And Palma, he's been coming onto a game recently. He got absolutely nothing out of Miller for the whole game. And then they brought off Mickey Johnson, who was causing more bother, but just kicks about the park in that one. He like skins people.
Yes.
It's like you're like, right, this I can see exactly what people think, why people are still continuing on, but then he just hammers it at the park. He can't cross or shoot. It's bizarre, really, because he's skillful. He's really skillful.
I've mentioned it loads of times, but I always enjoy bringing it up. His performance in the 2021
the League Cup final against
Hibs. Aye, because it would have been 21, wouldn't it? Just before Christmas. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He absolutely destroyed Paul McGinn time and time again, and every time he got anywhere near the box, he just felt a bit.
And but with this game, Hibs in the first half, the only time Celtic were getting any joy was mainly through pressing when Hibs were doing the by kicks of Bashiri and Fish. They would come in and they would get the ball, and Bashiri looked quite uncomfortable doing it, and Marshall had a poor kick out at one point, and Celtic created sort of their best opportunities through that. But in the second half, Hibs had Bashiri and Fish doing it, so they would get in. But there was a change that Marshall would dink the ball up to one of the fullbacks who'd push much further up, and that was getting Hibs what they wanted, which was to beat the first part of the press. Which is the whole point, is to bring people onto you, and especially the first 10, 50 minutes of the second half was when Hibs could have won the game. That was the period that you got, because obviously when you're playing Celtic and Rangers, time runs out, and really it runs out for you in 75 minutes. The window for you to win the game closes at 75 minutes, because it is then backs to the wall. There's nothing you can do about it. That's what's going to happen. They are just going to hammer, they're going to commit men, and that's going to happen. But Boyle had a great chance at that point. Newell got in behind. There was a good few moments in that period where Hibs could have done something. But tactically, it was really good to see how far it was worked, and it was good that people, it's not always about the shape, it's about how you work within it. And there was changes in how we played. Ibrox said Ewan and Boyle were going right high up. He was really trying to play him behind. It's like he maybe saw vulnerability in Rangers and thought that he could maybe take advantage here, and it really needs to, and then a bit of naivety that, like we talk about at the time, even when they're at their worst, at their most vulnerable, they're still well better than you.
Yes.
Right. And I think you mentioned that on the pod on Monday when you were talking. So like that maybe like you got a bit of a hit there. It's like, but you can still you can play defensively in a 4-4-2. You have Boyle, you can still stretch it. That makes him think that they can't overcommit with the centre halves. In terms of going into Celtic, big opportunity for Paulo Bernardo? Nah, didn't happen at all. They missed Hatate so much. Because what Hatate does, it's like, he's a wonderful footballer, and he's brilliant at keeping it ticking over, he's brilliant at shooting, he's brilliant at passing, but he also always runs in behind. Always. He makes those darting runs, and even if the ball doesn't come, it means that Kyogo gets room. Kyogo missed him so much, and it wasn't for his ability, it was because of those runs, because it meant that Hibs, Bashiri and Fish could just came in on Kyogo, and then there was nobody in that said O'Reilly had one of his poorest games because Jago was really strong in him, and as I said, the midfield was playing in so narrow, and Venti would come back in, and that meant O'Reilly and McGregor couldn't really get the run of it like they wanted. O'Reilly wasn't able to pick up the spaces. But yeah, the difference when you take Hatate out of that team for that reason, they're going in behind from midfield. He done it against Hearts for the first goal. He does it all the time, because you always see him, he sets up loads of goals with cutbacks, even though he plays centre mid. You know, like it's not normally how you would think that would happen, but a lot of his assists come from getting to the byline, because he makes a dart, because he's really fit and quick. And they took that out of that Celtic team, and it became pretty one-dimensional. And obviously they still could have won. The Forest hit the bar, but most of their best chances came for more like set pieces. And open play, they were really struggling to break. Hibs seemed down that had just been hammered, but Bashiri, he in the first half, I said he was a bit shaky. Second half, he was tremendous. You basically saw the two sides of Rocky Bashiri. What the problem is, having the erratic centre half, the worst place to have that style of player.
Yeah.
And then the second half, where he was like a beast, he was winning everything, throwing himself in front of shots. He was brilliant. And as I said, Obita and Miller, that was Obita especially in terms of like a rounded performance. That was the best. You see him, he creates the ball for Boyle's chance. It's brilliant. So, yeah, I'm pleased because you see your manager's learnt something.
Yes.
And he's implemented it, and he's managed to get that right away. So on the training pitch, he makes me think...
He's not just going... He's not backed up really what he said, which we kind of all thought as well.
He's not doubling down and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think we all kind of assumed that anyway, that he was probably just saying a different thing in public and private kind of thing. But yeah, but it is at least heartening if you're a Hibs fan that you can see your manager's learning and adapting to the Scottish game already.
And the fact that he can get his message across, because he's playing the best team, and he's able to do that. There's the hardest game for him to respond to, and he's managed to get it. And now Hibs go into it's an absolute colossal week for Hibs in Montgomery, because there's been loads of draws recently. We've managed to get out of the Tynecastle rain, like the really hard 3-in-a-row games with only one defeat, but we've really struggled to score goals. I mean, take away an 82-second period against Hearts. Hibs, I mean, Venti's barely had a shot on goal. He's had no chances to play on, and you know he's deadly. But we can't get him into that. But now you play Ross County at home. It has to be 3 points, because Hibs are where they're based in the league. That they need to start picking up wins. And then we go into a semi-final against Aberdeen, who I'm imagining if Sunday's out to go by, they're going to be tired because they're playing midweek again, and then they go up against Hibs. And then on the Wednesday night after that, we're playing St Mirren. And it's St Mirren. And if Hibs have ideas on third, which obviously they do, that's what their aim is. Probably going to have to go and win that, because otherwise St Mirren can start looking at, because obviously St Mirren play Celtic during the week, so Hibs can close that. So Hibs it's just a big week in terms of a semi-final and getting Hibs back.
Hibs could theoretically go 2 points behind St Mirren with
that type of week.
A couple of victories.
So I mean, I feel like it's a really huge week for Hibs in Montgomery, and if he gets it right, but he needs to win the 3 games to get it. I think that we need to get everyone going, because then it looks like Well, Hibs have only been beaten once at Ibrox, and they've played nearly the whole league. And now they've started, and once he's got together, it's like they're starting a motor, and a big win at like St Mirren, getting to a final. So I really feel for Hibs in terms of where this goes. This is like an absolutely massive week for what could be for Hibs this season.